All right, hopefully you guys are having a good start to your, what is today? Wednesday? Got it on my forecast sheet, and it's right there on the screen. Happy Wednesday, everybody. We are about halfway through August, and our weather headlines are pretty simple. Rain chances decrease after today, heat levels go up, and we'll keep an eye on the tropics and what's happening with Aaron, which currently not a whole lot. All right, we'll start with the composite radar view here. And again, the heaviest rain was early on this morning, as we had some flood concerns actually in parts of southeast Alabama. So glad to see that has subsided for the time being. This is a look at the flood watch and warning map. You can see that aerial flood advisory for the Birmingham, Jefferson County area, and that's because we had bands of heavy rain. Now, if you're familiar with Birmingham, we get a lot of these aerial flood advisories. There's a lot of infrastructure, and there's some big changes in elevation there as you go through the Oxmoor Valley, you go over Red Mountain, and the combination of that can lead to some flood concerns. Otherwise, there'll be isolated flooding events if you get underneath some heavy rain. Speaking of flooding, let's take a look at the radar loop from this morning. Look at this mesoscale convective band. I mean, look at the difference between one side of the Mobile Bay and the other. Daphne, Fairhope, Spanish Fort getting just tremendous amounts of rain over a short period of time, a lot of it in about 6 hours. I grabbed the 12-hour rain totals that went from basically midnight through early this morning when this came through. So Mobile, an estimated 1.13. Spanish Fort, 3.7. And then Fairhope and Point Clear, you start to see those pink values. That's upwards of 6 inches. And just a couple stats here. Period of record for Fairhope, single day rain totals, records of all time for August. This would be it. The highest was back August 2nd, 1984. There was 5 inches, 5.74 inches. Most recently in 2021, they had just over 5 inches on the 30th. So if this verifies with one of their sensors to be the wettest single day in August in the history, or at least period of record for Fairhope. So take that for what you will. Good to see the rain has ended down there. Still going for areas here in central Alabama, and you can see the movement of this line. They're not moving very fast, so these bands of rain can drop a lot of rain over a short period of time. Also have some lightning with storms here today, but you see that's why we have that aerial flood advisory for the Birmingham area. Heavy rain has come down. One severe thunderstorm warning back for Oktibbeha County, Lowndes County, and Noxubee County. And this is going to be coming into western Alabama. I don't expect it to stay severe. These pulse up briefly, but they typically fizzle out. Another one up near Florence, right along the Tennessee River in extreme northeastern Alabama. And again, this will gradually drift off towards I-65 if it holds together. We'll keep an eye on that for places like Hartselle, northern Coleman County. And there's a look at the Birmingham radar. Taking a look at central Alabama, some heavy rain from Tuscaloosa down I-20 all the way to Birmingham. Wiregrass, southeast Alabama, and Union Springs seeing some of the heaviest rain. Pike County, a few showers. Barber County to the west of Lake Eufaula, but down further south, pretty dry. Let's go to our future view here. We'll jump into Thursday, and this model's consistently been picking up on an MCS developing in Mississippi. We'll have westerly winds tomorrow as this low moves off to the north and east. While that's possible, should it not come together, our rainfall totals will not be too excessive, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. MCS can be, pretty good lightning makers, heavy rain producers. So should that come to fruition, that would be a Thursday afternoon sweeping across the state. All right, into Friday we go. Notice the decrease in our rain coverage. Now, it's summer, okay? It's almost impossible to go the day without any rain across the state. And we will have isolated thunderstorms, but a lot of us stay dry. We'll have more sunshine in between. It's been a cloudy week, and that's kept our temperatures below average. Friday begins a period with just isolated rain chances moving forward. So there's a look at rain coverage, NDFD data, and it's accounting for that little MCS feature you just saw there. So we'll have to see if this comes together. If it does, highest rain probabilities look in the western side of the state, but should this keep going, coverage would be pretty high. Friday it starts to go down, and that trend continues into Saturday with the northern third of Alabama likely staying dry. So on to temperatures. 3 o'clock on Saturday, you're going to notice the highest heat stays to our west, really west of the Mississippi Delta. We're going to be right on the periphery of a big ridge, so we don't have the highest heat values. But for August, we haven't really been over 90, 91 yet. And the weekend will offer up that potential. I think we're 90 to about 95 from Friday, really through the middle of next week. Shouldn't have any triple-digit temperature readings, but heat index values should be 100 plus for a couple of days next week. And with dry conditions expected really through Tuesday, maybe even Wednesday, we'll have consistent 90s. Towards the end of the month, though, a couple models pointing at signs of a frontal boundary shifting south. That is actually not uncommon for August. We'll sometimes get our first real dry front is probably the best way to put it, where we'll get a push of drier air. And when we drop our dew points down to the low 60s, that allows a bigger swing in our temperatures. I'm not saying it'll come to fruition, but I've seen a couple instances of that in the long-range models. Can't put a ton of stock into that, though. So we'll watch it, though, certainly near average temperatures, really through the end of the month. And, when we talk about average, we're getting to the peak season, and we start to see, on average, much more tropical activity. Put this in there just because I believe this dropped actually to a 10% probability from the National Hurricane Center, because this is just likely not going to develop into anything, and it has dropped to a 10%. So this will be a cluster, a little weak low that'll move into the Bay of Campeche and then into Mexico. It's just a big rainmaker. So with that, we'll go to the big satellite view here, and you can see that feature off in the middle of the Atlantic, about as remote as you can get. Amazing that 40, 50 years ago, we'd never know about these things unless a passing ship went through. It's amazing what satellite can do. So there is Aaron. It has done literally no intensifying. It was about 1,005 Leeward Islands, and then going off to the north as we head into connection may have cut out there, but you see this high here. That's the feature to watch, because this high is going to help not only steer but really sling this around the western flank of that high, and unfortunately that may not bode well for Bermuda. Just look at the forecast cone from the NHC, not having it become a hurricane until sometime Friday, perhaps Friday afternoon, and then likely becoming a major hurricane, a 2 or a 3 on the higher end. Most of the models don't have it higher than a 3, but it's certainly possible. And once again, we have this staying clear of the Bahamas and the Caribbean. So let's go to the GFS. This is a look at pressure levels. And I just think this gives an interesting perspective at the central pressure. And when it intensifies, you'll see that number drops. That's 961 millibar low. That's pretty good, 2 or 3 hurricane likely. This is the concern, though. As it moves around this high and it swings off to the north, this is pretty warm water out there, 84, 85 degrees sea surface temperatures near Bermuda. And a lot of repetitive runs of it doing just this, hitting one side or the other. And either way, Bermuda's probably going to have a significant amount of storm surge with this, especially if it accelerates as it moves off to the northeast. So that'll be something to watch here. But that is Wednesday at 9 o'clock. I've had it progged for really Tuesday to Thursday. It's been a wide range, but it's looking more and more like the middle of the week. And then this thing races off and becomes a very strong extratropical or post-tropical low, just missing the Canadian Maritimes. So again, we look at the big picture here, the composite radar. The southwestern side of the state had their fair share. They're done, at least for now. A lot of rain along and east of I-65. Keep an eye on it here. Again, biggest threat this afternoon, probably some isolated flood instances, especially if you're in a flood-prone area. All right, that's your Wednesday forecast discussion. Drop any questions below. Hope you guys have a great